Now normally I take mental notes during a film. Things that I liked, things that I didn't like, you know, that's basically the list. But with Thor Ragnarok, I found myself literally being engulfed by the world. And I didn't even see it in 3D. Chris Hemsworth was great as Thor, and Tom Hiddleston had a good role and a nice progression of the character of Loki through the film. And then there's Hulk. You know, Hulk actually had character development, like substantial character development, and that's a testament to the writer and director. So kudos to you. You did a pretty solid job there. Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie was decent. I liked her more than I thought I'd like her, but even then I didn't really like her that much. Maybe it's just the way they portrayed her with the backstory, but not really how she put forward the character. Maybe it was just the backstory itself was just slightly different and I didn't really like that as much. But I suppose she did a good enough job. I will say that the beginning of the film was great. Probably one of the best introductions to a film in the MCU, to be honest. It gave great exposition to where Thor was in the chronology of the MCU, what time he was in, where he was in the universe, and it was done in a very clever, funny way which fit and made sense without being cheesy, and it felt like it was fourth wall breaking, but it wasn't, and it worked really, really well. One thing I was pretty unsure on was how they were exactly going to fit Surtur into this film, with Hela being the supposed main villain. But the truth is, they did sort of, they gave Ragnarok in a different way, and it fleshed itself out and fit the arc of the story well enough. I wasn't completely happy with it, but considering how many things and cogs they had going on in this film, it slotted in pretty well. Karl Urban as Scourge was really nothing special. Pretty much a waste of a really good actor. They could have found him another role in the MCU because he's sort of been chucked away and thrown to the dogs here. But I will say as well, just as a spoiler, I don't think it's really a spoiler, the Warriors 3 are in this film, albeit for a small amount of time. Sif, there is no Sif in this film, unfortunately, but hey, that just means she might be in the next one. You never know. I don't think she's in Infinity War though, which is, well, you know. And then there's Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum was... he was Jeff Goldblum. Yeah, he was basically himself in this film. He does Jeff Goldblum really well. He does it to an A+. He gets an A+ in Jeff Goldblum, but it worked, it fit, and it felt real. It was funny, and it really built out the world and added to other people's characters, really good interactions with him from everybody. And that's probably a theme you're gonna hear with this review, is the word funny. It's probably the funniest film of the year for me. I do see quite a few films, but this is probably the funniest one of the year. Comic book wise, it's probably one of the funniest comic book films of all time. I think the original Guardians has that under lock and key, but this is probably a pretty close second, actually. But the great thing is that amount of humor and comedy doesn't detract from the story, which is something that does happen with an action comedy film. This is like a space opera action comedy film, and sometimes it does do that, but this had no problems with that. The humor works particularly well with the banter between Thor and the Hulk, but probably best done by Korg, played by Taika Waititi, the director. Now, some of you have probably seen his face before. You probably don't recognize his face in this because he's a rock monster. He is like a perfect mix in this film between Drax and Groot. Like, it is magical what happened with this character. Like, he is gonna be the new Groot of the MCU for now until Infinity War comes, because he was just a very clever mix of these two character types, and it worked, and it didn't feel fake or it didn't feel forced or pushed. It felt pretty funny and realistic. I mean, as realistic as a rock monster talking to an Asgardian god can be, you know. The CGI was great, as it normally is. The acting was good. Odin actually had a pretty pivotal role. He did have one in the first film, and in the second one it was sort of pushed aside. He really wasn't too much of a character in the second film, but in this one he came back to have an important role in the universe as a whole. And I'm not going to spoil things, but Odin, yeah. Nice seeing you. There were probably only a few things I didn't like about this film. Firstly, I would say the marketing, the cover-up marketing. I guess that's what I'll call it. I don't like being mismarketed. I think it's very disgenuine and ingenuine, and it actually pissed me off a bit in the film. When something happened, it didn't match up with the marketing, and I was like, okay, so I guess he's gonna get fixed or she's gonna get fixed at this point. Like, the character's gonna get sorted out, and it didn't really happen at all. And they took shots and they edited out bits so you wouldn't see it in the trailer. Now, I'm good with people removing whole scenes from films. I'm fine with that, but you use those scenes in the trailers. But doctoring scenes for the trailer, I'm not a fan of. It is almost lying. Like, I did get angry. That was one of the only things I got pissed off at, and that was definitely one of them. Like, I know you're trying to keep a surprise and you're trying to keep it fresh for when they see it when we see it in the theater, but I really don't like it. I like being shocked, but in a good way, and this was like, I was waiting for it to be fixed, and it just didn't get fixed. Second problem was probably Heimdall. Now, I liked that he actually had a character in this film, a fleshed out character that he could actually work with, Idris could work with, but it was not with continuity. Like, his voice was not his stoic, low, like, all-knowing voice that it was in the previous films. It's like he just changed and he wasn't the same person, which I understand if he's a fugitive and he's changed, but your voice doesn't change from being down here to like regular people voices. Like, it just doesn't happen. So I wasn't really a fan of that not really fitting, because he could have played the same character with his voice being like that, but they obviously chose not to do that, which is weird. Also, no Soul Stone. I don't think that's a spoiler, because some people are saying there's not going to be Soul Stone in this film. There wasn't a Soul Stone in this film, so I guess it's going to come in Infinity War, is where the last stone is going to be found. And lastly, and really the main problem with the film, was Hela. You haven't heard probably me say anything about her in the review so far, because she just wasn't great. She wasn't a weak villain per se, because she was very powerful. Maybe she was a bit OP actually. She was a bit overpowered, but wasn't fleshed out enough. She had a backstory of sorts. She had a motive, but it just didn't feel enough almost. You didn't get enough of her in the film to feel it fleshed out. You didn't feel her pain or anger or want through the film because she didn't have enough screen time. Maybe she had like 25 minutes in like a 2-hour film. Maybe she could have had like another 10 minutes and it would have really helped push her to be where she needs to be in the film. It just didn't happen though. She didn't have that that oomph to her that like a Loki did in Thor and the first Avengers, or the Red Skull. You know, some of these characters just don't have it, and I think she was probably leaning towards the decent side of villains, but she just wasn't good. And the problem is, it really did detriment the film as a whole. They're very fortunate that they actually thought and brought Surtur into it properly, because if they hadn't, they would have had a real problem with this film. But I guess that's all with the planning and story, and they did manage to create a fully encompassing film with this story. And the thing is, the film was over 2 hours long. It felt like 20 minutes. That was part of the problem why I couldn't take like mental notes. I used to actually take notes. I did actually used to take notes a long time ago during films, but the film went by so quickly that I was just like, it was like the end, and I was like, wait, that's the end? Are you serious? No, there's another 20 minutes. Like, there's no, that's the end. No, that's the end, bro. Oh. Right. Okay, but there is an end credit scene. There's two. The first one is really good. The second one, more funny. Not as good though, overall. But the first one is like straight into Infinity War. Like, you know what's happening. Loki, you done fucked up. You know what you did. You know what you did, you thieving son of a gun. I mean, you sort of saved it at the same time. Sorry, thieving. I mean, sort of thieving, but you sort of saved it. I will also say one thing. Okay, I'll say one more thing about this. They did a really good job at chucking out problems with previous films. Oh my god. You know, I'll just say this one. There's been a lot of talk about there are two Infinity Gauntlets. Like, what's happening? There was one in Odin's vault, and then there was another one Thanos had in his like, oh, okay, I guess his vault. Yeah, his vault. And people were like, are there two? Is there one and one's like a copy, or is one fake? I'll let you find out, but they worked it out really well, and I'm glad they did it, because that was a big problem. That was a really, really big problem for me. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Doctor Strange was in this film. Yeah, he had a cameo. He's really improved his sorcering. His sorcery. His sorcery. To be fair, it is the best Thor film so far, and I really liked the first one a lot. The second one, not so much. There's no need to talk about the second one. Only that the third one is a lot better. So do go and check out Thor Ragnarok. I don't know why I put on that voice, but Ragnarok in the theaters. Hopefully it can make like $700 million. have a good innings at the box office and smash some records. That would be lovely. So the big question is, what would I give this film out of 10? Now, the film had good CGI, it had great editing. Like, I'm a big editing man, and I didn't really see many problems with the editing of this film. Decent acting, a pretty astonishing story. Like, it was well made, well put together, and as I said before, it had Jeff Goldbluming. I think that should be a coin term at this point. There were problems though, to be fair, you have to be honest, and there were some problems with the film. So I'm gonna give the film an enthralling 8 out of 10. That's an 8 right there. I think that is an 8 indeed. So tell me what you thought about the film down below. And if you did enjoy this video, please do like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel down there. If you didn't, then Thor, the Lord of Thunder, actually, the God of Thunder, as he keeps on pointing out, will come after you. You don't want that. He sort of turns into a savage in this film. You don't want that. You really don't. So just subscribe anyway to avoid that. I've been NarendraTheComic. You have been great, and I'll see you next time. Skadoosh.